Hello, so this is the oral presentation for business ethics. It's a management course 4307. And it's our final oral presentation, and the presentation entailed finding a thinking critically assignment throughout the book and just find one that intrigued us that we could read and kind of go over. And the one I found was figure 1.3, so it's after chapter 1. It was thinking critically, life and death, elder suicide, or a dignified exit. A letter from Ohio, and is the title. And the reason I chose this topic is because it kind of made me sad to hear this 80-year-old man's perspective, to hear him talk about what he was going through. It starts off with how he was happy with the good life he had, but his wife has passed away. She passed away 7 years ago. His kids and grandkids live several states away, and he's kind of fearing for what's to come. He's fearing for the future. He knows that he's getting to the point to where he's going to have to be dependent upon others to take care of him, and so go to a nursing home or some kind of retirement home where he'll be assisted. And he doesn't really want to do that. He would rather have his savings and have what he has stored up right now go to his kids and grandkids. And he doesn't. He's fearful of going to a home, and this was kind of a tough discussion because, I'm not there yet in my life, but I know that everybody gets, not everybody, but growing old is part of life for most people. And I'm 23 years old, but 60 years down the road, how am I going to feel about my life? Well, I would hope that I look back and the joy that I experienced when I was young, and even finding joy in any way I can at that age, would overcome the temptation to end my life. But that's part of the way I was raised. My dad always said, I don't care how bad things are never that bad when it comes to suicide. I also don't think, given my beliefs, I don't think that is our liberty as human beings to take our own life. I feel like we still have, if we're still alive, even at our worst moments or close to death moments, we still have a purpose on this earth, and it's not our call to end our own life. This guy is 80, and he's feeling the growing pains of being old, but he could live another 20 years and there's no telling what kind of impact he could have on society or in the world for another 20 years. He can still make friends, and there's really, I don't know. To me, I think it's this guy's perspective. I know that a lot of seniors probably feel this way, or not a lot, but I know there's probably a number out there that feel this way. And I guess I feel bad for them that they have that perspective, because I know plenty of people that are 80 plus years old, and they're not dwelling on the way their body feels. They're not dwelling on, oh, I'm near death, or I've got money now and I want it to go to my kids. They're not worried about that. They're still living their life to their fullest capacity that they can. And I think that's the way you should approach it, regardless of your health, regardless of your pain that you're going through. You should try to still live a fulfilling life. And so part of the assignment is to go over the questions. The questions for the Thinking Critically assignment. Question number 1 was, should people have the moral right to end their lives if they so please? And you can tell, obviously, from my initial answering of this topic, I say no, and just kind of some reference I found from the book. It says the basic assumption of ethical theory is that you as an individual or community are in control of all the factors that influence the choices that you make. And the reason I chose that quote is because, you have control over the choices that you make, but you don't over how they make other people feel. So you have to look at it from other people's perspective. If you think that you have the moral right to end your life, and if your life's really that bad and you're to that age, I know that I can't fathom that right now. I know I'm a young man, but I've always thought about if somebody does this and ends their life in their own terms, then how is that going to make other people feel? How would his kids feel about it? How would his grandkids feel about it whenever they ask, oh, are we going to visit grandpa? Or are we going to see grandpa? And how would you explain that to kids, to friends, all that stuff? And ultimately, they're the ones, although this guy might think it's easier for him, they're the ones who have to continue to live on knowing that, this man wants to end his own life or would like to take the liberty of ending his own life in a legal manner. So, question number 2 I selected was, does being near the end of one's life make the decision to end it justified? And once again, I said no. And kind of my notes I wrote in response to that is, it's not up to us. Why can't he still seek out the joy in life of what he's still of what he can still find. That's another thing about life is whenever we're really young, we don't have the liberties of doing a whole lot until as we grow and get older, and then we get independence whenever we get to drive, and then we get independence when we go off to college or when we get a place of our own. We continue to grow in independence and kind of live that way, have the right to make our own decisions as life goes on. And that's kind of a tough part about growing old, is we have to give up some of that right. You've been driving for 60, 70 years, and all of a sudden you might have to give up your driver's license. So if you don't have anybody to take you around or to really transport you anywhere, then it can be a pretty tough feeling to go through. So just stuff like that, I know it's tough for them to go through that, but there's still things that you can find joy in. And it's a lot easier when you have family and friends closer to home to take care of you and to run errands for you and to run you to the doctor. And in an ideal situation, that's what's happening, and that's what goes on. But understand that not all situations are like that. But I still think it's possible for you to find joy out of life, even if it's just, hey, I got to see my grandkids a couple weeks this year, or I got to see an old friend for we went and drank coffee this week, or I still go eat breakfast with them once a week. Just kind of some examples of simple things that they might still be able to find joy in. The third question is, what might the phrase right to die mean? And right to die means to have the right to end life prematurely to what your natural death would actually be. And I think that obviously, right to die, that shouldn't be individual's choice. I could die tomorrow, or I could live until I'm 80, and although my perspective on life will be different when I'm 80, it's still, I'll still find joy in whatever I can each day, no matter how hard life is, no matter what I lose. Like I say, just because of my beliefs, I'm not going to take the liberty of ending my own life because I'm having a difficult time with certain things. So that's just kind of my take on the topic. And so ultimately, no, I don't think that people should have liberty to end their own life.